All right, well, welcome again to our Sno-King Water Watchers Monitor meeting on June 18th, 2024. Starting off with introductions and apologies to Bob and Kathy who introduced themselves prior to the recording starting, but they're on here. And I'm Eric Admin of the Sno-King Watershed Council. How about Glenn? You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, my name is Glenn Heyman. Is my partner Linda Sue. We monitor on Bear Creek, Evans Creek, and a couple of locations on Stens Creek, all basically right around Novelty Hill Road and Union Hill Road in Redmond. My background, I'm a geologist by education, and I spent most of my career in hazardous materials. 18 years of that was a project coordinator at a Superfund site. So I know a lot about nasty chemicals in the environment. You gonna?
I'm his right-hand person.
You're his right-hand person.
Yeah.
Limited right hand right now. Okay, how about Nancy?
Yeah, hi, I'm Nancy Flowers. I'm a retired chemistry teacher. Currently doing Penny Creek at the Mill Creek Nature Preserve, where we seem to have a kind of a golf ball problem that I've mentioned to Eric. And I do North Creek. And also I just started doing Scriber Creek. So a woman that I work with at the Adoptive Stream Pollinator Garden is doing a restoration project at Scriber Creek. So we've been sampling there for a couple of months now.
Nice. How about Stacy?
Hi, I'm Stacy Admin, connected to Eric Admin, and I monitor with Eric here in our yard on Little Swamp Creek. And we have monitored Swamp Creek, Main Swamp Creek before, and we've talked about starting that up again down at where it connects to the Sammamish.
Can I ask how long you guys have been at this?
I think our data that we've been entering in the system goes back to 2015.
A while.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at the pictures in my phone.
We've been creek activists before that, but that's when we started the water monitoring program. All right, how about Dalen?
Hello, my name's Dalen Gates. I am the GIS specialist, which is helping you guys facilitate the creation of the new survey system for each site, as well as working on the displays and data management on the back end.
Thanks, Dalen. Jim Loring.
Yes, I'm Jim Loring. I'm new at this. It's been a lot of fun, a big learning experience. I'm going to be starting on Lewis Creek in Issaquah here soon. And also I want to do a little beach monitoring for they're getting some warnings out here on Tibbetts Beach and Lake Sammamish State Park that there could be some kind of indication of a problem. Anyway.
Okay, thanks, Jim. How about Gary Olson?
Yeah, hi, Gary Olson. I'm with Thornton Creek Alliance, and I am the lead for our community-based monitoring program. Going to talk about that in a little bit, so I'm not going to spend much time on that. Anyway, it's good to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Gary. Cameron.
Hi, I'm Cameron. I work in King County Department of Natural Resources and Parks in the stormwater group. I'm not really, I guess I'm not a water watcher, but I like attending these meetings and seeing what you all are up to. I do various forms of sampling and monitoring various parts of King County with a focus in Bear Creek, Issaquah Creek, and down on the Enumclaw Plateau. But I'm just excited to hear what you all are up to. Thank you.
Thanks, Cameron. How about Sally? Oh, Sally, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. I'm Sally Stroud. I'm very new to this. It sounded really interesting. I'm semi-retired from business and technology, so I thought it was something I would like. Also, I moved about a year ago to a development in Juanita. I'm on the board of the HOA. And the Juanita Creek, a branch of the Juanita Creek runs through us, and then another creek, and I'm not sure, Totem Lake Creek or something like that. And so the water, the water looks a little, not exactly pure and clean as I would expect. So I thought that this would be a good area for me to take a look at and focus on.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Sally. How about David Bain?
Let's see. I guess I've been teaching water quality monitoring since about 2011 and co-founded the Sno-King Water Watcher group with Eric. And I think we've agreed it was 2015, though that's longer ago than I can remember. Let's see. I'm supposed to be monitoring the Sammamish River on either side of the former Wayne Golf Course. So we're getting some baseline data on what the water does as it flows through the golf course now, and there's a lot of restoration work planned there, so hopefully we'll be able to measure whether that makes a difference or not.
All right, thanks everybody. I always think it's interesting just to kind of hear sort of some of the different areas and geographic scope that people are working. And Lindsay, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry. It signed me in under Adopt a Stream, so I had to leave and sign in under my own Zoom.
That's okay. I was just going around. Sorry you missed most of the introductions, but since you're here, do you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Lindsay Sandom. I know Eric through the Adopt a Stream Foundation, which is where I work. And our mission is to teach people to be stewards of their watersheds. So that's kind of what brought me here. I want to learn how to take a hands-on approach in caring for our local streams. So I also have done some volunteer works with the Sno-King Watershed Council in Kenmore at Swamp Creek and Wallace Swamp Creek. So yeah, that's pretty much a good introduction, I think.
Thanks, Lindsay. And Lindsay also has gone through water monitoring training with us.
Yes, in the midst of it.
Okay, I'm gonna share a little slideshow here and go through a little bit of a presentation. So let's see here. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
I can see it.
Okay, good. All right, so our agenda for this evening is just to kind of, first of all, just say hello, find out who's here, get some updates. I think in particular, Gary Olson from Thornton Creek Alliance is going to talk to us about an interesting project they've been working on. Then we're going to go over the new data entry process, which is pretty much ready to get rolled out now. I'm going to talk just briefly about some issues that we're having with some supplies, and then talk about some of our upcoming classes and some things you can do to monitor this summer, and talk about some upcoming events. So that is our plan. So already gone through the welcome and introductions part. So I think we'll move into updates. And I think what I'll do is I will hand it over to Gary and let him, if you have a screen to share.
Yep. Yeah, so if you can make me a co-host, would be good.
I think you have the ability to share a screen now.
Okay, great. Let's see. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about our program in general, and then give you some data and then talk about a little bit about the our DNA research program that's going on that Eric and I are involved with. So just a little bit of statistics and update on, again, Thornton Creek is located in the northeastern part of Seattle and the kind of the southern part of Shoreline. It's the largest watershed in Seattle. And we've monitored over the years we've been monitoring 34 sites in the watershed. We basically started in 2017. So between 2017 and 2023, we sampled and analyzed over 6,500 samples for E. coli, which is where we started in terms of our monitoring. And again, we've reported over 3,250 E. coli results to Seattle Public Utilities, who is the manager of all of the creeks in the Seattle area. So they can take our data and see what's going on and sometimes they'll come out and explore what the problem is, trying to figure out how to reduce the E. coli. Annually, we have between 80 and 100 children, students between in the 4th and 5th graders who are monitoring. We've had 3 schools doing that monitoring in the area. And the last thing is we've been funded similar to Sno-King Watershed through funds through the King County Water Works Grant Program. So just to give you an idea of some of the data that we've collected over the years, again, it's a lot of data, so just we have a few charts to show you kind of what's been going on. So for those that aren't familiar with Thornton Creek, it really has 2 major forks. There's a North Fork that, as I mentioned, starts way up in Shoreline and goes down to an area, those familiar with Seattle Meadowbrook Ponds area, just north of that. And then there's a South Fork that actually goes and at the confluence at that point at Meadowbrook Ponds Park joins with the North Fork. There's a lot of also tributaries off of Thornton Creek that we have monitored as well. And then from Meadowbrook Ponds Park, the outflow from that actually goes south and then eventually ends up in Lake Washington, again, near Matthews Beach, for those that are familiar with it. So if you look at this particular graph, this is showing just simple averages of the values that we've gotten over the years for the various sites that we sample. So this is for the North Fork. So here's like around site 5 here, and it then goes all the way down to site 8. And then also on this graph, I've shown site 11, which is the Matthews Beach value that's been flowing out into Lake Washington. So as you can see, when we started, and we didn't start at the beginning of 2017, so we don't have a full year's data here, you can kind of see the levels in terms of how they stack up. And again, this is 100 colony forming units per 100 mils, and this is the 600 mark. And again, for those familiar, above 600, contact for that water for all humans is considered unsafe. So that's kind of a line that we hate to see we go above. And again, if you look at the data, you can see that in a number of cases, and these are averages, so you know that we're exceeding 600 several times during the year to bring those averages to these particular points. So the other thing you'll notice is it's been going up, so it's not been getting better, it's been getting worse, especially on the North Fork. So that's something that we're concerned about, and we're working and talking with SBU about what might be going on. And there's a few thoughts about that, but not going to go into it right now. So also on this particular map, we have one arterial creek, Little Brook Creek, that flows over in this area, and it comes through Lake City. And that has actually been a particularly bothersome from an E. coli perspective. And again, you'll notice that the scale is changed here. So 600 now is here. So if you look over the years, you can see significant times in years where we've exceeded that 600 on average for the various sites. And we're sampling that one at actually 4 different sites along the Little Brook. So again, it goes from the start to the end. And in most cases, we're, you know, as in most cases, we're going up as we've gone through. There's a couple of years where it's kind of been, the averages kind of dropped, but in most cases, it's increasing as we go from what we call site 12 through site 16 on Little Brook. And again, what I'll point out also on this map is everywhere that you see these little red dots here, those are all the sampling sites that we've sampled over the years. We don't necessarily sample them all currently, but as we've learned, sometimes, you know, sampling a site here and here, we're not gaining much information. So we've eliminated some of those sites over the period since we started sampling. So this is the South Fork. So the South Fork starts over by Northgate, actually on the other side of I-5, crosses over, and then flows, again, as I mentioned, to Meadowbrook Pond to the north, where it connects with the North Fork and flows out to Matthews Beach. So again, this blue over here represents the Matthews Beach number, and you can see that we've had some increase as well on this site over the years, but not as dramatic as we've seen on the North Fork. So one of the thoughts was that, oops, I don't want to go there. Let's see, hold on. One of the thoughts has been that the South Fork has older sewers. It's more established community. And historically, the South Fork had been worse than the North Fork, according to Seattle Public Utilities monitoring. But since we've been monitoring, we've kind of seen the North Fork actually start to get worse, unfortunately, for E. coli than the South Fork. Okay, so that's a quickie on our E. coli, but we've also been doing temperature over the last number of years. So this is just a graph that shows the temperature of the creek. I just wanted to show you kind of a comparison from 2021 compared to 2023, for example, for the North Fork and how that's been running. So in this graph, unfortunately, I made the site 11, which is the site going out into Matthews Beach in green, but that's in blue over here. So you can see that as the 7 flows to 8, flows to 11, and in general, I don't know why that's getting so sensitive, but in general, Matthews Beach is the highest temperature for the system. And again, you can see the dates down here running through the year. So this is the peak in the summertime, generally in August. And that's in both years, we're kind of meeting that peak both times. So that's just a demonstration of the kind of data we collect. Again, we have quarterly meetings of the group and share all this data with them so that they understand how their numbers kind of fit into the overall picture of what's going on. And again, just like Sno-King Watershed Council, we started doing conductivity measurements actually a little bit before the end of last year. So this is kind of, 7/1/23, the middle of last year through till March of this year. And again, showing consecutive sites along the creek, and they really tend to follow each other pretty well. Again, you know, with conductivity, we're looking for, you know, big differences, something that really changes in the system, whether it's localized or over the total system. And so, for example, here we had a fairly large spike in conductivity, and this this was in the middle of the summer, 8-1, the temperatures were, at peaking. And so solubility could have been increased, and we're kind of seeing that impact at that particular time. It was also interesting to see some of these low conductivities, which were a result of significant storms, rain volumes, and the levels of conductivity actually went way down, close to what you would see for tap water, for example. Now, there's no correlation here with E. coli because often, as people know, when we get stormwater, we also seem to get high E. coli values. But in looking at this particular one, this peak that we were seeing in the summer, we took a look at some of the sites going into site 24, which is right before coming into the confluence at Meadowbrook Ponds Park. We actually had a very significant high level of E. coli. We're up between 4,000 and 4,500 E. coli for that particular time. And interestingly enough, we also saw, so you look at those, we also saw a high conductivity, 300, where if you remember on average, we're probably running significantly lower, maybe around 150. So all the sites were higher, and they were higher for E. coli, but the highest one was actually at that site 24. Site 11, again, is the Matthews Beach going into Lake Washington. So, there are times when we're going to get reasonable correlations or possible correlations with conductivity. But some of the hope is that the conductivity might be an indicator of a sanitary sewer leak into the system, which would bring along a lot of the household kind of chemicals and things that might cause that. There may be other plants or operations along the creek that might also cause higher solubility or salts or something to get into the creek. So we're looking for those kind of indicators with the conductivity. Currently, we're evaluating a pH meter for monitoring. I know Sno-King Watershed Council uses your kits for doing that, but there's a low cost pH meter that's now available. So we're taking a look at the ease of use and its stability for making measurements, and what's the need for frequency and of calibration on it. So far it's been pretty good. It actually gives you the pH to 0.02 kind of things, 0.00s. So but we've just been playing around with it for probably the last couple of months. And if it looks good, then we'll probably add it to what we're measuring, just like we do conductivity. So I'll spend a little bit of time on our DNA project. We've kind of mentioned it. And as I said, Eric and I have been involved with this for the last couple of years. We got some grant funding from King County to take a look at this new methodology that a company called Veriset has been offering to the community, and it uses an interesting and new technology, kind of what they call their phyllo chip, where they can actually take a look at many constituents in a sample. If we send a sample, for example, to the King County environmental labs, they can tell us potentially if there's humanoid content in our samples. But to find out whether there's other animals contributing to it, etc., in some cases they can do it, but in most cases they can't. This procedure allows us to send one sample, and they can theoretically tell us everything that is contributing to the potential E. coli or the higher things that are more probable to the contribution. Eric and I have been frustrated at times. This is a new thing, and but we're continuing to work with the researchers on this to see if it's going to be practical for a community-based science program. But anyway, so this is a little confusing. I apologize, but I'll try to go through some things. So we've sent 3 series of samples. This happens to be the results from the 3rd series of samples that we sent them. And again, if you look up here, these are our site numbers from our area up here. And down here are some of the sites from Sno-King watersheds areas. So again, they prefer to do about 15, 16 samples at a time through their system. That maximizes its efficiency. If you look down at the bottom, you'll see the contributions potentially in the sample that they're analyzing, that if they find there's birds and cats and dogs and horses and so on and so forth, and human is right here. So if you kind of take a look up at the human column, you'll see that in this particular analysis, and again, you look over here and there's a number from 1 to 0. That's kind of the probability that this is in fact the contributor to the signal that they're seeing. So for the samples that we sent in at that point, there was a high contribution, a high probability that it was human related. Interestingly enough, for the Sno-King watershed samples, only 1 sample at the McEllion Creek that showed a reasonable possibility of human, but most were also showing possibilities for the variant or bird contribution. And there was also kind of a horse signal, which again, we're not quite sure that that's meaningful, but anyway, they were getting that on the results. So, so let me show the next slide on this. Oh, let me just mention this. So each one of these rectangles here represents a different modeling method that they're using. So the source tracker is the one that's their traditional method. And again, it also showed kind of a similar result for our samples with regard to human. Not quite as much in the bird area initially for the samples from Sno-King Watershed Council. Let me move to the next one. So this kind of has the E. coli results of the samples that we sent. So you can see we had some significantly high E. coli results on a number of these samples that we sent from Thornton Creek. And again, also there were some significant high samples in 2 series of sampling. One was done a little bit earlier than the other for Sno-King Watershed, and that's this grouping. And then we had some additional samples that were taken a little bit later. You know, that also one of them had high and the other ones were kind of low. And then if you pull the numbers out from that table that I was showing you earlier, with that probability, you can kind of see the numbers a little easier here, and showing, and again, this is with this K neighbors. It's that was the modeling that they used. And these were the values that they showed for the bird contributions from the Sno-King samples. And here's the human ones for our samples from Thornton Creek. So one of the questions we asked based on the human is it possible, because this is something that was also indicated that was a possibility from the way they did the samples, that they would be able to distinguish between waistline, E. coli kind of bacteria or organisms, and septic system, and then something that was directly put into the creek, like from an encampment. So basically, we said, you know, you gave us human, it would be really great if you could do what you were kind of thinking you were telling us you could do. So we asked for that, and then they came back with this table. And in this table, it's interesting. So what they did is they took some samples from the various systems, wastewater system, from a septic system, from kind of direct poop, if you will, system. And they put it in and they put it into the model, and then they took a look at what the results showed based on the data that we had gotten from our third set. Okay, so interestingly enough, they called it septage. But again, if you look at the Thornton Creek Alliance samples, they really were considerably higher than the other ones for what they call septage, which to me was coming out of the septic tank. But there's still some questions about that we need to get answered in terms of what does that actually mean? Does it mean it's got no other materials in it, or does it have something that's related to a septic system? So there's some questions that we're still pondering and working with Veriset on. But it was interesting to see that, that's the one they came out with. And it covered all of those samples. And again, on the Sno-King watershed samples and in this category, they actually didn't, let's see, unfortunately, I've got something covering my thing up here, but you can see that there was a lot of kind of unknown signal, and a couple in this area here. And yeah, so I'm not going to go into much detail on that, but the point is that they're trying to see if we can get a distinction between what the sources are of the E. coli, a little bit finer than what we've had before. And again, because the samples from Sno-King watershed didn't seem to have human significance, they're kind of backing that up. That doesn't appear to be showing there. Anyway, so what's our next steps? So Eric and I have been talking. We want to there's a couple of things here. We want to determine handling and storage of the samples. And we've had questions about some storage and handling issues that happened on some earlier batches that we sent through. And we really, sending 16 samples at one time to them, that means we don't get necessarily 16 samples that are high. So we'd like to be able to send it and have maybe a DNA extraction done and stored, and then see, can we wait, a month or something before we do the final analysis without a change in the results. So anyway, so there's a lot of importance in that, and also cost considerations based on that. And then based on what we determined for this, is this really a practical approach for a community-based monitoring program? So that's something that is kind of key to the research aspect of this. Is it going to be meaningful? And is it something that, community-based programs can do? We did work with some of the samples from this last run with the University of Washington at Bothell that does the DNA, also does DNA analysis. Again, the more traditional procedure for that, which is kind of looking at one at a time. They did get some interesting data, but in terms of working with them, their costs would be significant, and it's not really within our budget to try to see that as a future. And then we'll determine kind of what the submission of some additional samples to Veriset. And we're also, we've got some money for a final run, maybe of 15 samples. And we also have a little bit extra to kind of do some comparative with another lab that does this type of, not this type of analysis, but more traditional analysis, but which we can ask them to do specific testing on our samples, just as a comparison with what we've been getting from Veriset. And the final thing is that once we finish, we're going to be writing up our report on the findings. So that's a lot of stuff. I apologize if I went too fast, but I wanted to try to get everything out to you guys. And I'll ask if there's any questions. as I cut you back to off of this. Here we go. Let's see. Did I stop sharing?
I have a question about cost. How much is the cost to do these DNA samples?
So basically it's about $500 a sample, which is very similar to a cost for the King County Environmental Lab. So that's what they would charge us to just do humanoid on the sample. And again, their analysis, like our analysis, is kind of probability. It's not really telling you how much is there, but just whether it's a strong signal.
And just maybe we can have just a couple of questions because we do have actually a bunch of other stuff to get through as well in our meeting, and we can stick around at the end for additional questions if
Yeah.
Gary's available.
Have you compared the results from Marissette and the King County Lab?
Well, yeah, the short answer to that is no. We were
That's enough.
trying to do that at the very beginning, but the labs for the King County labs, for some reason, basically were not interested in doing that with us. They did some parts of the program with us, but they didn't go into the analysis. So I'm not sure, what their reasoning was, but we were prepared to do it, but that didn't work out.
So when I,
Okay, thank you.
it's on the table and I'm looking at it thinking I'm serving it
Oh.
as a salad.
Okay.
And I use it as a salad bowl, the people that work there.
All right, thanks, Gary.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna.
That it could be used either way, so I use it.
Bob messaged a question about the 600 standard. You were saying greater than 600 was hazardous versus in the bacteria levels versus the 100. You're muted. Gary, you're muted.
Basically, for when we started the program, the level of safety for E. coli was 200 colony forming units from the health department aspect of it or below. And that was safe for human contact. About maybe 4 to 5 years ago, they lowered that to 100 colony forming units. Then between 100 and 600, it depends on the sensitivity of the individual. So basically, some people or some react above the 100 level again, and then some don't react until maybe above 600. So 600 has been established as kind of the cutoff, and above that, it's unsafe for human contact. That means getting in your eyes, in your nose, in your mouth. It's those kinds of things.
All right, I'm gonna just move along in the agenda at this point, just because we're running short on time. But and the standard in the WAC is 100. So all right, so I'm gonna go back and share screen here. So thanks, Gary, for talking about what's going on with our with your program right now and our research. So next thing we're going to talk about is the new data entry process. And so essentially, I've been working with Dalen for quite some time on this over the course of this year. And at this point, he's basically got it pretty much more or less all the issues that we've been able to identify have been resolved. So we're at the point where we're rolling this out for everybody to use. So this is kind of what it looks like on the mobile version. And I can actually, if I were to, let's see, let me share a different screen. If I share this screen, sure I'm sharing the right screen. So this is what it would look like when you are using the app. So there's an access code, and then you get access. Can everybody see this, by the way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's an access code, and you can use a desktop version or you can use a mobile version of this. And so the desktop or the mobile version looks like this. And then you just work your way through a series of prompts. So we have some subgroups. So Sno-King Water Watchers is kind of our main group. We might have Kirkland monitors, or maybe we would set up, if Saltwater State Park was to start working with us, or, whatever subgroup, we can set up subgroups. You'll have an opportunity to basically enter all the information that you would when you're filling out the data sheet. And then this will go to a database within ArcGIS that we control. And so next thing is we're going to start working on some displays. So basically we're at the point now where you can use this form. We've got some validations in here to make sure people don't put the wrong things in, et cetera. And we're pretty much, we're going to start rolling it out at kind of like a beta test version. So we're not going to do every single site right now, but basically for any of our monitors who are willing to use this at this point, we're going to share it. So I'm going to stop sharing right now and turn it over to Dalen for a sec and let Dalen chime in for what else he thinks we need to tell people about it.
Yeah, you kind of went over the initial stuff that I wanted to talk about. We're going to be kind of going through a beta release where certain select sites will have access to the surveys and get to put some data in. With that data, though, we will soon be having some displays. I'll show you guys a preliminary display now. So as you can see, it's a little bit chaotic right now. I'm still working on it, but you can see you can toggle a lot of these variables, focus in on what you want to look at and see them over time. I'm still looking for a way to make the guides toggleable so you can see if they're within standard levels. But so you take a look at pH, you can see that all the pH for this little swamp creek was within the standard level, so far and so forth. And also on this map on the right, there are now toggleable layers. So you can take a look at, let's take a look at pH since we're already looking at pH. And you can click on these and it'll give you a pie chart about if it falls within standard ranges. This is as per Washington Administrative Code. Let's see. There's some that don't have all of them perfect. I believe the turbidity had a few that were outside of normal levels. So you can click on it. And for now, right now, these are just simple displays. It'll give you see if it's outside of the standard levels or not. But with the information that you guys put into the survey, the point is that'll stay there, and I'm going to create a mirror of that data, which will allow me to display it in many different ways. I'm going to eventually create a combined display which shows all survey sites at once, so you can get an idea of overall how the region's doing in terms of data monitoring. But yeah, those are kind of the next steps that I'm going there. It's mostly data displays. And also creating the site creation survey, kind of mirroring how it worked on the Global Water Watcher site. So that's what's kind of coming up next. Do you have anything else to add, Eric? Or
no, I think that covers it. So I just say this has been quite a process. Dalen has put in a lot of work on this. But this is going to be really beneficial to us to be able to escape some of the quirks that were associated with our data management under the Global Water Watch system, have control of this, be able to display it in some different ways. So like, as Dalen mentioned, we're just kind of in the preliminary steps right now at looking at the displays, but we have a lot of different options in terms of displays. And in particular for like setting up new monitors and new sites, it's going to be a lot easier for us to do. So yeah, it's starting to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be really nice. A lot more control on our end, which is what I'm looking forward to seeing for you guys.
Well, the data entry form, will it basically because a lot of the stuff is just repetitive
Mhm.
each time. Will that remain in there? So when you open it up, you don't have to put in everybody's name and the location, all that
Uh,
general information.
Most of that general information, yeah, I could show you guys in just a second.
Okay, that's great.
Let me see. So as you can see, like the water watchers code, the watershed, the water location, site location, that stuff will be consistent for an individual site. The only thing that I will require you guys to put in necessarily that may be a little bit repetitive is the monitor names. This also kind of doubles as a third security check because obviously if you don't know your own name or don't know the names of the people monitoring the water site, it'll be
The
really
data's
easy to
not
pull that
provided.
up. Yeah. So you gotta put the monitor name in, but other than that, it's mostly just data entry. So you
Okay, great.
enter all those things. I got an auto for like sea meters above sea level. Things that I could automate, I tried to automate and put in there, but things that I couldn't, I couldn't. So there we go there. Any other questions?
All right, thanks, Dalen.
That looks really nice.
Thank you, thank you.
All right. Yeah, this is exciting for me in particular.
I noticed a lot of Swamp Creek sites in there.
We might be a little Swamp Creek biased around here. Okay.
As you should be.
Um, let's see. Going back to a couple other items. So again, super thank you, Dalen, so much for what you've been doing for us on this. This is just huge. Okay, so we do have the new process, but we still do have the forms. So we'd still like you to use the forms. And after you enter the data, keep a copy of the sheet. And ideally, if you can, email us an image of the sheet to this particular email, waterwatchersdata@gmail. This just helps us keep kind of a backup archive of data. Okay, moving on. LaMotte company has had some issues. Evidently, so these little blister packs are how they package the reagents for alkalinity tests, which is that BCGMR, and hardness tests. And if you look at the BCGMR expiration date, which has also been written in Sharpie, you can see that it's expired, and that's because they've had some like breakdown in equipment on their end, so they're just not able to produce these. So we are ordering. They actually have some liquid reagents as an alternative, so we're ordering some other things. But in the meanwhile, you may not be able to do your alkalinity tests for a little while until we get those other reagents. Okay, some summer stuff coming up. Some things that are good monitoring activities to do in the summer are stream flow monitoring, also stream biomonitoring, especially in the late summer, early fall, and BIBI as well. And so we've got some training classes coming up on those topics. So we've got a stream biomonitoring and BIBI, which is benthic index of biotic integrity. That'll be on July 10th. And then we'll have a practical session on the 13th. And then a practical for BIBI. So if you're interested in those, get in touch with me and we can coordinate the training and also coordinate the activities. A couple other things to highlight coming up. We have an appreciation event, and so that is open to all of you. You're all welcome. And this year it's going to be on August 14th at Tla Adis Park in Kenmore, which is where we had it last year. And it was a lot of fun, and it's kind of a nice chance for everybody to get together in person. So mark your calendar. Hope you can make it to that. Another event coming up is Streamfest. We did this last year. This has become kind of an annual thing for us in conjunction with people for environmentally responsible Kenmore, the city of Kenmore, and a bunch of other partners now. So that is also a super fun thing. And we've got all kinds of activities planned for that. So I hope you can make it to that as well. And that is it. So thank you very much for participating in our meeting, and happy monitoring. And then I'm gonna stop sharing now and open it back up and just see if anybody has any questions in general for more questions for Gary about his project, or Dalen, or me, or just any general good of the order. So Bob.
How do we access the laptop version of the new data entry system?
So the way it'll work is I will email you a link to the survey.
Mhm.
So if you want to start using that, what we'll do is we'll create there's kind of a multi-part process. Dalen will create the survey, and then I have to publish it under our ArcGIS license. But it's straightforward. Basically, the long and short is I'll email you a link, and then all you have to do is click on the link. And when you click on the link, what happens is you can either click on the link on your phone as a browser window, and it'll pop up and it'll look like that mobile display, but you're just looking at it via an internet browser on your phone. Or you can click on it on your desktop, and it'll view in a different format, a wider format for your desktop computer.
Great, thank you.
Nancy.
Yeah, is all of the past data loaded in for our sites?
We're in the process of doing that. We have files with all the data that we've gotten from Global Water Watch. We are going to have to do a little bit of a conversion process because we got that file of data from Global Water Watch a few months ago. So if there's some kind of intervening data, we're going to have to figure out where it resides. But we can download anything that's on Global Water Watch into a CSV file, and we're going to upload that into our system. And Dalen, do you want to comment on that anymore?
Yeah, so far from the data that I had pulled from Sergio, I've done some work with automating the process of separating it by site. Yeah, so a lot of those scripts are already pre-coded in. I just need to get the new data, like a new list of all the new data from either Sergio or pulled from Eric, so I can rerun it through the code and have it ready to be displayed alongside the new data. Because the idea is I will then take a look at the fields and append it to the survey data, the mirrored version of the survey data, really. But yeah, it'll be displayed along with the new data. Is the long-term goal. Yeah.
All right, anybody else? All right, well, I just want to say thanks again for all of you for all the volunteer work that you do, and for joining us here. Really happy to see you all, and hopefully I'll see you at some of our upcoming events. So thanks very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Eric.